Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Fairview's coffee has mysteriously gone missing. Mayhem ensues when strange, coffee-craving zombies plague the city. Detective Mickey Potatoes, an overworked public servant, uncovers why ordinary citizens are losing their minds and how to stop the coffee apocalypse. But it involves the mafia. And when you're dealing with mafia crime families, nothing is ever easy. The mafia controls everything in the city, including the police, including him. If he breaks the mafia, they will break him. So, the city is without coffee. The city is burning before his very eyes, but he's powerless. Detective Potatoes has the power to stop the coffee apocalypse, but if he does, he could lose everything.
What is Path of the Pale Rider anyway? Is it a comic book? No, that's not it. Is it this? What the heck is Path of the Pale Rider, man? There's no way this is right. How about this? I really have no idea.
We're gonna rob a bank.
Oh, it's this.
Madness Comic Network and comic-related madness proudly presents Madness Tuesday Morning Brew. Tune in to our content on Comic Talk with Pops Van Zandt on YouTube.
Oh, good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, best day of the week, because I get to drink coffee and hang out with indie creators and nerd out. And I'm so excited to have today's guest on today. First time on the show. Lots of good questions. I got to preview the comic, and I got to say, my mind is moving in a lot of different directions. So I got lots to ask. I'm really excited. Good morning to, look at it is. It's Glenn, Laurie. Good morning, Glenn. And of course, Max, good morning. What the heck is Path of the Pale Rider anyway? That's my commercial. That's kind of an earworm. It gets stuck in your head. And you have to ask yourself, what the heck is Path of the Pale Rider, man? You gotta figure it out. You gotta solve all the riddles. I'm happy to say that I let's see, where are we at in the book? So issue number 4, Marco is diligently working. I'm cracking the whip, all of that good stuff. Things that we've gotten poker cards in, the hats are finished. I've been printing the secret rewards, so these mini big Jameses that 3 people were brave enough to do the secret reward. I got one more to print, and then I can do a cool stream where I hang out and paint these bad boys because everybody wants me to paint them, which is really cool. T-shirts have all been ordered. Yeah, no. No, no, we're not going to go there. No, thanks. What else? It's cold here in Texas, man. I was gonna make some coffee today, but I felt like tea, and every time I make tea, I burn the heck out of my mouth. I digress. So I'm really looking forward to more pages from the book. I completed the riddle for the back page, and it's a doozy this time. Last time it was just the scavenger hunt. Yeah, I know, Max. Isn't it crazy? Now, cold to me is different than cold to people in the north. Now, I'm from Michigan originally, so I know what cold is, but having lived in Texas for a few years, it is 49 and I'm freezing. So I don't want if it's 24. Could you try again? Thanks, Siri, for interrupting. And when it gets to be 24, I don't even go outside. No, thank you. Just to take the dog out. Oh, hey. Devil's there. We should be friends. We just became best friends. So anyway, I don't know if I'm going to sneak peek the riddle. Probably not. Y'all just have to wait until the book comes out because once you solve it, it's a doozy. That one's a doozy. But I'm excited that it's done. My editor, Rachel, she was the guinea pig and she made sure that it's solvable. Good morning, William Russell. Congratulations on your Kickstarter, my friend. That just wrapped up last week. An incredible turnout. Everybody's here, so that's great. Let's start this party. I'd like to introduce y'all to Mr. Davy Lee. Good morning, Davy.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. You seem to be a wide awake, sir.
Yes, I had a Celsius and coffee, so that's good. I had to actually go to the gas station to get coffee because I'm all out. So that was a big oopsie. Yeah,
I know that's the worst. Really, coffee. I'm out of coffee.
Yeah,
Lame.
I know for sure.
I don't know what struck me as a tea kind of day. I don't know. The Tuesday morning brew. I'm supposed to have coffee, made tea.
Yeah. It's not a failure. It's still caffeine.
A little bit, but I just always burn the heck out. I think I overheat the water. I even put ice cubes in it. It's still too hot.
Do you have an electric kettle?
I do, and that's the problem. I just let it go, and I think it boils to the point where it's scalding.
Yeah.
And I put in the tea.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm just it always burns me. My coffee's always perfect.
Yeah.
You are a Texan and not a British person. Correct, but you are also correct. We have to brew. We have to brew the tea.
Yeah.
So Davy,
you
are in Montana?
No.
Where are you? Where are you? Florida. I'm totally
Yeah.
thinking somebody. Florida
I've been to
is
Montana. I love Montana.
way nicer. Way nicer.
I mean, probably at this time of the year, it's probably a little bit more doable. But yeah, Missoula is a place I've always wanted to go out to. It's a program there that I actually applied for my MFA, which I got in Florida at UCF. But yeah, I was really trying to go there, but they didn't accept me. Lames.
So it is what degrees in Florida right now?
What is it? I think it's like 70.
Oh.
Maybe. I don't know. I work from home, so like I hardly go outside anyways.
No, I feel you.
Yeah. It's like you work from, oh no, it's 59. All right. Okay.
It's cold for you guys, right?
Yeah. We anytime it goes below 70, we're like, ooh, long jacket weather.
And it's weird. Coming from Michigan, it's like coming down to Texas and living here for a while, it's like your blood thins out.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So I'm at the point now where I never liked the cold, but it's like I'm a wimp. I'm like, it's 40 something.
Yeah.
No.
Get me inside in a fire.
Yeah. My family that lives in Michigan was sending me pictures of snow this week, and I was like, you can have it. I don't want that.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm from Missouri originally, St. Louis. So yeah, I feel that. I had to take that migration as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like moving from the South to further south, though.
I mean, sort of. You know, St. Louis is on that Mason-Dixie line for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're a little purple up there.
What, Max?
Yes,
UCF,
for sure.
U of F?
Yeah, University of Florida. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I agree. That's fine. I have no loyalty to UCF.
Tell us how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, they were like undefeated or something as their football team. The entire time I was there, I didn't see one game. Yeah.
I don't follow sports neither. But I mean, again, do you blame me? I'm from Detroit. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you have the Red Wings.
The Red Wings, yeah, but they were winning when I was, I think, in high school.
Yeah, I hated them when I was in high school, for sure.
Yeah.
They would smash the Blues.
Yeah,
which was
they were really good.
Yeah.
They were really good back in the day. But like they take turns, like them and the Tigers will take turns being good, but the Lions just always suck. You know, it's a Thanksgiving tradition to eat food and then watch the Lions lose. It's what happens.
Yeah.
So
I have Cleveland people in my family, so we do the same with the Browns.
Pretty much.
I mean, St. Louis, our team abandoned us, so you know,
what?
At least they didn't do that. Yeah, I mean, they didn't abandon us. It was like a wife split with their husband, which was L.A., came to St. Louis and then realized they made a terrible mistake and went back to their husband. You know,
what did I do? Oh, no.
This guy's a loser, and this weather sucks. Yeah,
that's hilarious. Having dinner and listening to people talk about comics. This is nice. Yes, absolutely. So speaking of comics, Davy, you are a writer.
Correct. Yeah.
Tell us about your origin story into comics. Did you originally intend to write comics? Were you writing something else and just fell into comics?
Yeah.
How did it all start?
It's more of a trip into, for sure. You know, yeah. I was at, I didn't finish high school, and I went to many different trades. I was a tower climber for cell phones and everything like that. But this is a real origin story. But I didn't really think that, you know, this was going to be my life plan. And I always read books and I always wrote. So I decided, hey, I should go do a career for that, because I guess I hate money. I despise money, apparently. You know, so I started going to community college for years and years, and finally got to my bachelor's degree. And within one of the classes, it was, you know, movie script writing. And that's when the origin of Benigno started.
Glenn.
I don't know Glenn, or should I?
You know Glenn?
I don't know. I hope we didn't meet and then I'm forgetting.
Glenn, I have questions, but okay. Continue.
Yeah. And so it started off as a script, and then I forget when it really came into comics. I think it was like sometimes during early COVID, I started thinking about doing comics that way. You know, I've read some comics. I was, you know, always into Neil Gaiman stuff, which Why is it Sandman? It was slipping my
Sandman,
mind.
of course.
Always got into Sandman. Then I was into Saga with my wife. She really loved that. She sticked with it a lot longer than I did. Then I just went all Image, all indie comics, all those things. Never really much read Marvel and DC. You know, as a comic book writer now, and hearing people talk about the difficulties of people getting into floppy reading, I totally understood that process, because, you know, when I started walking to comic book stores, I'd be like, what is this? How are these little, this is issue what? Oh my God,
Yeah.
I can't get my head around it, because I've just been trained from traditional publishing to be like, oh, I need a big book and it's 1, 2, 3, you know, I can do it that way. So yeah. So I definitely fell into comics. I got my artist from Reddit, actually. So it was comic book collabs, and I had pitched it out there. You know, I did my research, because I do come from a traditional background, so I kind of knew how to, you know, write a cover letter, a pitch, and everything like that. And it was a paid, you know, opportunity. So I got a lot more clicks than, you know, if you're like, hey, I'm just looking for somebody to partner up with. You know, a lot of artists are going to be like, I don't know you, and I don't work for free. You know,
right? I mean, that is difficult for poor artists who are, you know, everybody's broke, right?
Exactly.
So it's so hard to find someone that can pay a decent page rate and not try to rip you off. I think it goes both ways, though.
Oh, right? It does, for sure.
Totally goes both ways. So that's just so hard in this industry.
I know. I got very lucky with my artists.
Trying to get a comic out, you're no different than the literal devil, Dre, or we're all idiots. We're all idiots trying to get comic books out there. It's like Sisyphus pushing a rock up a hill.
Yeah. My family doesn't get it. They're like, what's the goal? Like, to make money, be famous? I'm like, no.
None of those. Yeah, do they? That's hilarious, because like, people in my family do the same thing. They're like, we're so proud of you, but where's it going? And it's I want people to read the story. And they're like, are you going to sell it to Netflix? And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, that's not what's on my radar right now.
Yeah. It's like, I'm sure my publisher is trying to like do that, but I have no idea. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
So when you wrote the script, was it intended to be broken up into floppies? Were you thinking is it as a whole graphic novel, or
a 3-act sort of structure there? Because like I said, it started as a script, so I kind of wanted to go with
like a movie script.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe you and I are the same person. Because I started reading Image comics. Like probably around the same time that you did. So like Walking Dead, East of West, Nail Biter, Saga. You know what I mean? Like
for sure.
Same thing. Never really read Marvel or DC except for one-off like graphic novels for Batman, like The Killing Joke and stuff
for sure.
like that. Neil Gaiman all the way. In the fact that when I wrote my script, it's a 3-act movie.
Right.
So, but what made you switch? I know that you were reading comics, but what made you take your script from this format and say, okay, I'm going to break it up into a bunch of floppies and tell the story sequentially?
Movies are just ridiculous to make, or especially animated things. So it's like, how are you going to make a movie? I mean, I could have definitely did it, but paid, you know, a lot more to get animators and things like that. So So it was kind of, and it was a challenge as well. Like I had been reading the Median, and you know, there's a lot of changes.
Yes, Glenn, I have questions. Why are you going to be? What are you doing tomorrow? That's my question. You can put that in the chat for me. Let me know.
Hopefully, it's for something good.
I was like, make sure it's PG, please. Did you ever consider pitching your script to?
No, not at all.
I didn't either.
No,
but why? Why?
Probably because I just didn't care to go that route. I would suspect it never seemed like a possibility or something that I wanted. I mean, I was interested in films. With I made a lot with my cousin, but more of the directorial side I was interested in. I was never really interested in writing scripts for movies, and that was the only one I ever had written for a script. You know, I'm usually short stories, starts of novels, and things like that. So, you know, it never really crossed my mind to even try to make it or pitch it as a, you know, animated film or anything like that. Yeah.
Hey, what's up? Good morning, John. I was in production at the time, and I was being told to pitch it to like a Netflix and an Amazon. And I did some research, and I just didn't want to do that process. It looked very difficult.
Yeah.
I was worried I was going to lose creative control.
Oh, you definitely would have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially
writers,
as a first,
you're not going to hold on to that.
Right. As a first-time script writer, and you're coming to Netflix, and they hold all the cards. Like,
yeah. And most likely they would have just stole it and put a different name and, you know, different.
They can't do that. You have to use.
Oh, they can. They can.
Oh, I'm sure they can. I'm saying they say that they don't, because you're dealing with like a literary agent, and then they bring it, so there's like a direct channel that they have to go through, so that way they're avoiding legal matters. But you never know.
Yeah,
you never know. Someone can ghost write something very similar to your script. They change it up.
Sure. Yeah, of course. Like, this is a great core of an idea. Let's lose everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Put in some naked chicks. We're happy.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about your script. Your pitch us. It's Benigno. Say it for me.
Benigno. Yeah.
Benigno.
It's like Italian, Latin sort of
I see
derivative. It definitely has the Spanish influence as well. Yeah.
Well, I definitely can see that, and I have questions about this setting. But so Benigno.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell our people that are watching, like, what's the story about? And
so Benigno is your traditional sort of hero's journey story, following a coming of age story as well. With Benigno, who is a child at the beginning of the book, who is pursued by a gangster who runs the town that he's in San Salvador, El Salvador. And so they collect taxes. And so some of this is based off real life things that I was reading about at the time in El Salvador. And some of those taxes is, you know, you have to pay for protection or whatnot. And if you don't, well, they might come and say, okay, now we're going to have your kid as an employee. So that's what happens to Benigno when he's a kid. But his family fights back, namely his grandmother, who practices in Santeria, and she calls a philosopher spirit to protect the family. Unfortunately, things go awry. The protection the protection spell backfires. It certainly is Harry Potter-esque in that way. So the parents do pass away. Grandma doesn't. Benigno doesn't. But also it does protect him for that time. Unfortunately, as well, the spirit inhabits Benigno and lives in his belly for 8 more years, where we catch up to Benigno after the first 8 pages or so, the hook, you should say. And they wind up in the capital of El Salvador, where unfortunately that same gangster has pursued his way up the political chain and is now vying for mayor of the larger city. And they do meet and things do escalate. And it's basically an adventure story from El Salvador all the way up north on this real migrant train that exists that is called La Bestia, which is a migrant train that many people take, and they call it La Bestia because it's the beast. That's what it translates to. And many people suffer tragedies along the way on the beast, because it's not a train where you're like, here's my ticket. It's more of like, here comes the train, jump on quick.
Train, right? Hang on to the top of your life.
Exactly. So he takes that through many of journeys, some, you know, on this plane and some in a lower plane, if, you know, 7 layers of that plane. So he's definitely going that way. And the spirit that inhabits him is a friend or a foe. We're not really sure. He's there. He's helping. Sometimes he's doing some things that may not seem so helpful as well. No.
How many issues are in the series?
So
the arc.
Here's a good jumping off point to talk about how, like, if you are pitching to Scout and specifically Scoot imprint, so you're going to do probably 1 issue, right? And that's more of like a large ash can, because after that, you're going to most likely go into a graphic novel style. So, which is perfect because that's what I wanted in the first place. So I'm very happy that I ended up with Scoop. I didn't want to go the floppy route. Even the book size that we're going to be putting out is going to be non-traditional trade. So it's going to be a smaller size, certainly to fit more of a manga format there. It's going to be a little bit bigger than manga. So then there's going to be 3 books from in that 3-act structure. So first book is the first act, second book is the second act, third book is the third act.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're doing like an ash can of, let's say, 20 some odd pages of the beginning.
That's out now. That's the 24 pages. Yeah.
Okay. So that's kind of the prelude, the prologue.
I wouldn't even say that. It's more of like, so it's non-traditional ash can, because ash cans, they can be either like the first couple pages and you leave it at that, or it can be like its own self-contained story that's supposed to introduce you to the characters and whatnot. Okay. This one is just like, hey, it's the first 24 pages. It's more like a pitch, right? Like a pitch to the reader, like, hey, you can grab this. If you like it, go on to the graphic novel, right? It's kind of like the same philosophy that Image has with their reduced price on their first trade issue, right? So it's like, hey, you can grab these pages for $4 and see if you like it and want to elevate to the then graphic novel that will be coming out.
So then when you do your first graphic novel, 24 pages are going to be the first 24 pages in the graphic novel.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So if people wanted to get the full collection, they would then get book 1, 2, and 3, which is the trade graphic novel size, perfect bound, etc., etc.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. It's an interesting format. We'll see if it works. I mean, it could be the book's fault that it doesn't work, but certainly I think it's an interesting way to go about it.
Oh, it is interesting to me, and I would love to see if that's successful.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, like, don't we all want to see if that's successful? But what I'm thinking is that if that is that, but I think you really have to be with a publisher because it's hard to produce. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean? I see what you're saying. If you're independent and you want to, sell, 91 pages, which would be the first graphic novel, that's not a big incentive for you because you have all these pages that you could have divvied up and done, 4 or 5 projects on. I totally get that. Yeah. But I've never wanted to go the Kickstarter route. Who knows, Scout and Scoot themselves, I know have, dabbled with doing Kickstarter or Indiegogo things with their creators. But I don't know. They haven't told me if they're going to ever do that, but there could be a possibility for the 91-page one. But I see from your point of view that it's probably not very beneficial to put out 91 pages where if you got good cutoffs for your story to, keep that interest going, why not try 5 books, 4 books instead of 1?
That's kind of the method that I'm doing. We're going to do a trade every 4 issues with the first arc being 12 issues. So I have like arc 1, arc 2, arc 3. So I mean a total of 36 issues. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's awesome.
But I feel like that getting to that trade, I think that's what people ideally want. You know what I mean? Where they can sit down and read 100 pages as opposed to 24 pages.
Yeah, I'm not sure anymore. I mean, it took me a long time. Like I like floppies now.
Yeah.
But I think people, getting into comics that aren't familiar with them, then trades seem more. I really enjoy floppies now. Like it took me years and years to then just start picking up floppies, and now that's pretty much exclusively what I buy. I very really buy trades anymore. It's just a better way for me to keep track of a story, a better way for me to get into a story, a cheaper investment to see if I like something. So I think for a consumer point of view, people, for me anyways, money's a big thing. So spending $5 compared to $20-$30 on something I might not like seems a lot.
Right. I think that's essential when it's like getting the new people in the door, where it's like, but that's kind of what Scoot is doing, where it's like, here's the ash can. You can still get an idea if you like this or not for that $5 price point. And then if you decide that you like it, then here's the books.
Definitely. And it helps, some context that I didn't add is it's an all age comic. So, I certainly think that kids are probably more susceptible to a longer, bigger book that they can
sort
of sit down with. I think I do. I mean, it's durable. If I was a parent, buying a floppy for a kid would seem a little bit dangerous. It's like, okay, if this thing's supposed to be worth anything, because now comics are supposed to be collectibles as well as entertainment, am I going to let my kid read a first issue floppy? I don't know. Maybe
not.
It depends who you are. Yeah.
You might need to get two.
Yeah, exactly.
One
exactly.
for the shelf.
Yeah.
One that they could put their little goobery hands on.
Yeah. Exactly.
I was just thinking about the attention span for kids.
Sure.
Do you have kids?
No kids. But I have nephews, and you have 2 kids. Yeah. Fantastic.
And it's not there.
Sure.
You're like little goldfish walking around bumping into the walls.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
6 and 9.
Okay.
My 9-year-old's going to be 10 next week. It's
perfect.
really a big deal.
Yeah.
But
a
10-year-old, I think, could sit down. 9 and 10, like she could sit down and read a graphic novel, and she would love it. 6-year-old.
Yeah, for sure. But how about when you read to them? I was also a reading teacher in middle school, so I always felt like attention span for kids always sort of 6 and 9.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
It's a good context for your kids.
Right. Giggity, goo. There you go.
That's funny. Where was I going? Oh, yeah.
You were saying you were a reading teacher.
I was a reading teacher. And so I think, the attention span always came down to like meeting them at their level and certainly reading to them.
You have derailed us.
That's okay. So like, can you read to your 6-year-old?
Of course.
And they will pay a longer attention, or is it just a little bit or not at all? About the same. Yeah.
Like we're reading Harry Potter right now.
Oh, perfect.
She makes it through maybe half a chapter and she's moved on to something
else. She's like, Mom, you have something in your nose. I want to put my finger
she's
in
like
it.
Scribbling on a doodle pad, or she's just flat out asleep.
Yeah.
So it's great because my 2 girls share a room. And we're reading Harry Potter, so that the 9-year-old knows everything that's going on.
Yeah,
and
she's wrapped. Yeah,
right. The 6-year-old is like, when did that happen? I was like, oh, that was last night when you fell asleep halfway after.
She's like, I don't care anyways.
People died. She doesn't know. Like,
yeah. Like glad I am.
Good morning, Pops.
Hey.
But I can see your point. Like reading it to them as well. At least for the 6-year-old, I mean, sorry, the chat is so funny today. You're a wizard, Laurie. But even just reading the comic books, like she's at that level where she's starting to read.
Yeah.
So, and some of the things, like for example, in your book are like it's Spanish or slang, or like they're calling that one character the perro. Perro. So stuff like that she may not grasp, but if I were to read it to her, then she definitely would. So,
yeah, and she might grasp on it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So
for people that are watching, what is the difference between Scout and Scoot? And I think they have a couple other divisions within their publishing ranks. Yes.
I'm not even sure. I think they do have like a darker version of Scout. I'm not sure.
You do?
I have no idea. But
there.
but I know there's Scout, and then Scoot is an all-age imprint of Scout. So they've had that for some time. I think at least 4 or 5 years.
Gotcha.
And that's where they put their all-age comics.
Yeah.
Yeah. My original pitch definitely was more of a Scout-ish title. There was definitely darker things. They went into, we tried to just level things out and bring it to an all age group with like removing guns and things like that. And we had, my artist is a very brilliant person and he has kids. And so like, instead of El Perro having a gun, his name is the dog. He has a bone wand.
I was like, I'm not sure what the heck this thing is. He was shocking them with increasing
power. Yes.
Right, depending on where the dial was. And I was
If you look closer, it's a bone because
Okay.
my art is like, well, he's the dog. Yeah. So
That's
he's got a
hilarious.
bone. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Scoot being the all ages, and then Scout
Yeah.
being more for adult. There's
Correct. Yeah.
Chipsa imprint. I'm not familiar with Chipsa.
Chipsa.
Chispa. Excuse me.
Chispa.
Chispa.
I don't know. Is that something under Scout?
Yeah, I'm just on there.
Oh, Black Caravan, right?
It's like Black Demon Tales, Katrina's
Oh.
Caravan, Mashbone and Grifty, Thanks Romina. And
What are all these
13
things you're saying?
Origins. These are books. Well,
Oh, books?
Yeah, these are different books.
They're not imprints?
What's the difference between an imprint and a book?
So, right, an imprint is going an imprint is like what Scoot is. So it's like a publishing name, right? Like where you would be published under Scout, I'm published under Scoot, right? So it's like it has their sort of flavor. What's a good example? Like, doesn't Image have like a black, like a darker sort of like Black Caravan or something where it's like
Black
more,
Science?
Yeah. Is that a book?
Or you're talking about Black Science is a book. You're talking about like a category that they would go.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the reason they divvy it up between Scout and Scoot is so, readers can know that if they're buying a Scoot book, they're going to get an all ages book. If they're going to buy a Black Caravan imprint, which I don't know what imprint that's under, but I think it's an imprint, then they know they're going to get more darker, edgier stories, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, question from the chat. Davy, does your comic ship international? Income tax are a thing for me being in the EU. I just wonder. I don't care about the age stuff on the stories as long as it's good.
Yeah. Yes, it definitely ships international. I think, I forget the site I was looking at. There's one that is based in the EU, and I contacted some stores over in the UK, at least, about getting some of my comics into their stores, which some of them did, not many, but some of them. I know people internationally did have them, but shipping's always a concern. My artist and my letterer are from Argentina. So, I just now got the books to the writer and the letterer because Matthias Zanetti, who you probably know, who works with Tim, he visited him and then was able to give him the comics because I'm not shipping to Argentina because they want your child's future.
Oh my Lord.
That ability to do so. But people are now, I'll probably be trying to translate this all to Spanish soon and get an Argentina release and this contact a printer there, hopefully. So they'll be able to print them there so we don't have to ship,
Gotcha.
Because that would be awful. Yeah.
I'll go back to the website again, guys. That's not the only time we're going to be there. I promise I'll bring it back up. I just wanted to see if there was anything there that said, international or anything.
Well, I think there's like a different site. So go ahead. I can work. I can multitask.
Gotcha. Well, I was going to ask you more questions about the story. Because there is such a connection to the location in it's El Salvador, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Why El Salvador? Was there something about that attracted you, or you have a connection there, or?
I have zero like familial friendships, any connection there. But there was documentaries that I was pretty obsessed with at the time about the Bestia, which is that migrant train. Right. So it was just an interesting setting for a story, not one that I had encountered. I don't know of any story like fictional that I've encountered in El Salvador. Except for some of the Spanish writers that I really like. So when it comes to literary fiction, definitely the Spanish writers are some of my favorites, which kind of sucks because I can't read a lick of Spanish, right? So, so I'm always getting it through a translated version. I will sometimes have like my wife who's not Spanish at all. She's actually Lebanese, but who practices Spanish on a regular basis. So she'll kind of read me some of it in the language that it's supposed to be heard of. I can't understand, but it sounds beautiful. Spanish is it's not a utilitarian language. It's more of that poetic sort of nice sounding.
Romance language. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it has a sound to it.
English is a lot more useful than Spanish, I feel like, in some instances, but Spanish definitely sounds better. It's more poetic for sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
There is something to be said about things getting lost in translation sometimes.
Of course.
It's like how many, it's a copy of a copy or a translation of a translation, and then
Yeah.
the meaning can almost get lost. So when you're talking about some of these literary writers from ages ago and trying to, it's been translated a few times, and it's like, are we even getting what they intended anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've read tons of translations of Beowulf. It just kind of depends on who the translator is. I always like to go, even if I enjoyed the translation of the Beowulf, like just kind of checking out their credentials, seeing how they feel towards Old English, and if they have any loyalties to it, or they're just somebody who is able to do it and is like, hey, I'll just make a translation. And it's like, obviously J.R. Tolkien's version of Beowulf to me is like, that's the Beowulf, right? So yeah.
That's interesting. People don't think about that sometimes, where it's like the translator matters. You know what I mean? When you're consuming something from ages ago, if it's accurate or not. So when you are going to have this translated into Spanish, who's going to do that for you? One of your guys from Argentina?
I imagine. Yeah, we haven't gone into details, but I would imagine somebody, probably, Mateus is a good guy that I would want to tap for that, because to me, from his emails and things, he seems to have a good grasp on both, at least in the written format. So I think he would be a good translator for it.
Yeah. And I think your book would do well. Obviously, they would love to sell your book in their community. Having, being a contributor to it. It makes sense for that to also be in Spanish.
I think the book's probably meant to be in Spanish, to be honest.
Yeah. Would Scoot be a partner in that? Would they help distribute that? Is it something that they would consider? Or
I have no idea. I mean, it could, since it is Scout, so it is creative owned, as long as I don't use the dressing and stuff like that and give the credits where the credits are due, then I think that's possible to like have somebody, a publisher down there, take it for the second run. So I don't know. We'd have to come to that bridge when we do. But I think probably that'll happen when, like, at least the first book are out, is maybe even all three.
Interesting. Yeah. Devil's Air says, I have a copy of the Jungle Book, but it's in Dutch instead of English. Interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Can you read Dutch?
Yeah.
And he says, Old English for me, lad. Interesting. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about pitching, because I've had a ton of people on the show, and most of us are indie and small press and small publishers, but Scout is a little higher up on the food chain, in my opinion.
Okay.
So what was the pitching process like for that?
Long and arduous, for sure. So it was about 4 years from conception of comic book script to getting it published, and I sat on like only 27 pages for a long time, right? So like trying to pitch it out. And so my first route, because I again come from a traditional background, I have all of those fancy BFA, MFA degrees, and so I really wanted to get into like something like Scholastic or find an agent first to do these things. However, going the traditional route with comic books is difficult if you don't have a complete project. So like I had two agents who were definitely interested, and both of them were like, send us the 300 pages, right?
About that.
I'll send you 27 and the rest in script form. And they're like, no, thank you. That's fine. Good for you. But get out of my office.
That's so hard, because as an independent, how do you get it?
Well, let's do the math, right?
All right, let's do the math. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about page rates. Like, you know what I mean? Like, artists deserve to get paid, right?
Yeah. So let's just say you have 300 pages at 120. Let's just say conservatively 120 per page. What is that?
You've already done the math, haven't you? I'm gonna get my calculator out. Let's do that. So 300 pages times 120 is $36,000.
Yeah. So my salary. Yeah, exactly. So that's tough. If you don't have a partner, which I do have a partner now from Argentina, a different artist who like we're working on a book collaboratively. So like it's just sharing of ideas, and he's doing the pages and I'm writing the script and we're talking about it, and there's no money exchanging right now. So it's like, if you get that partnership, there might be a way to go ahead and do that. But, you know, it was his idea. He wants to draw it. He came to me with the idea to write it.
Yes.
So it's like, you know, I got lucky in that way. And so not a lot of people are going to get that. If you're the writer, you have the idea, you know, one thing you don't want to do is like just hinge on the creator, the artist that's going to be as into your project as you are, because they aren't ever going to be.
No,
right?
then they aren't, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they may see the world as you see it, but it's us at the writer that walks around in that world and sees all the details and helps craft craft it from start to finish.
Right.
And the artist is trying to interpret, again, they're translating what we're giving them.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. They're putting
So
flesh on these bones that can't stand on their own. Right. Like nobody's really going to be wanting to read my script.
Oh, but I'm sorry. I was laughing at this. Yell at Davy. Get off my lawn. Get off my lawn. They're like, get out of my office. Right? Yeah. Pages or give me death. Right.
That's right.
But that's so hard. So it's like, how do you pitch traditionally unless you have a finished project? And how do you get a finished project without being able to have the capital to pay these guys? Because again, there's very few and far between that want a partner.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And usually not ever. Even if you can have an artist that is familiar with you, they still have bills to pay too.
Luis isn't going to do my pages for free, and I never expect him to do so, you know, and he's invested in Benigno as much as he needs to be, you know, which he wants the project, wants to do good on the project, but, you know, he's got kids, he's got a wife, he's got a house, he, you know, needs to pay bills. So I totally get it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, damn it, he has to eat. Unfortunately.
Hello, I like money.
Yes. Yeah. For sure.
So now you have 27 completed pages.
Well, if you want to go just to like continue that, right? Yes, so like I did the agent thing, I did the traditional publishing thing, that went nowhere. And so then I like going to comic book publishers, that also all dead, right? So I definitely created my pitches on Canva, right? So like it definitely helps. Like my first pitch was god awful. I don't want to show it to anyone ever, but it was made in
good, Davy.
No,
I mean,
no. It was made in Word. It was made in Word. It was so bad. I sent it to Luis and he goes like, I'm thinking something different. You know, I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you know, professional. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right about that.
You need to teach this skill though, because so many of us don't have it. Like I'm getting ready to pitch again for you know, for the series because we're on season 4. So I would love to pick your brain. So continue.
Yeah, so I went into Canva and started to do pitches like that. Like again, like these got me nowhere, right? Like you know, even the professional pitch and everything. But really what, you know, got me going was going to comic book stores and going to conventions and going to things that put me in front of the publisher. Can I present here?
Yes. Yeah, you could say share screen.
Yeah.
And put it up there, and then I'll present it, and you will have control. I would love to see what you have to share.
Okay. Is it work?
And that's key too, because Marco and I were talking about this, because a lot of times we've been doing local cons based off of like financial needs, because again, it's really hard to make a table back when you're selling $5 or $10 comic books. Right. And let's say you only have one issue out. That's hard. Right. But almost as if you have to look at what cons do the publishers go to and try to get yourself there, but they're not always vocal about it. So you have to be pretty savvy to figure out where you need to be and hope right place, right time kind of situation.
And that's definitely what it was. Right.
Oh, there we go.
Trippy.
We went through infinity there.
So I'm not showing you the embarrassing one. I don't even know where that is.
Oh, come on. We would love to see it before and after. You know what I mean?
I don't know where that is. I I would have to look for it. but this was the one I was sending out, right? So it's made in Canva.
That's okay.
Yeah. So being able to
send now.
Yeah, this was the one that I sent. So, your cover letter, your team members with some social contacts, right? You have a little bit of intro, a little bit of cool, page design, and then your synopsis, right? And then going into your sequentials.
Stop. Go back.
Oh, sorry.
So how many pages do you typically put together?
So for this, you mean for the pitch?
Yeah, for the entire pitch, you have a cover letter. You have the
as many as you can have, but minimally 6.
Minimally 6.
Yeah, like at the minimum 6. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say at the minimum have 6.
First page have cover page.
Yeah, first page have your cover page with your contacts, your cover letter, right? Which is cover letter, right, is just your quick elevator pitch, right? So like if you met somebody in an elevator and you're like, I'm a comic book writer, like, oh, what are you working on, right? So you can just tell them before you get to the floor that might, have a hook or whatnot. And then just your team, right? Just Luis, Mateus, me, right? A little bit of bio information, what they worked on. Hopefully you have some credentials. If you don't worry about it. Don't make anything up. You don't have to say you're sorry. just leave it at, I'm a comic book writer on this, blah, 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 right?
Right.
And then next is your synopsis.
Now, when you're giving synopsis, are you giving synopsis for the entire series? Are you giving it for just, okay, so entire series?
I would say so, yeah. I mean,
you're giving them spoilers. You're giving them all the details.
Yeah, and this is the short synopsis, right? This is the 1-page synopsis, which you will need to have also your full arc synopsis, which this is in a sense, but it's the shortened version, right? It's the very fast and quick. So it's the next step up from your cover letter, right?
So you have like an opening, midpoint, and then ending, and that's just for like your arc. So let's say my arc is 12 issues.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm giving in the beginning, the middle, and the end of that 12 issues, not the entire series.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. Yeah. And you want to hit on that focal point a lot. You definitely want to make sure that you are listing things that your book is within the mainstream culture, right? So I have a similar to Bone, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It is inspired by Charles Dickens' serial stories, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and Fooly Cooley. The book's audience, you want to make sure that you display that you are knowledgeable of where your book fits in the zeitgeist. So it's new adult, YA. So this is obviously an older version of my script that has gone through iterations. This is the one that went out. This isn't the one that Scout accepted. Scout accepted me in Scoot with more of a person-to-person kind of thing. Meeting the editor of Scoot. Yeah.
Nice. Well, they're in Florida, aren't they?
They are. So that helps. Travis Gibb was a big help.
Travis?
Yeah, he's amazing. I met these guys like just haphazardly, really. Like I lived in Orlando and I would come down south to play D&D with my brother and his Man Night crew, which is every Wednesday we hang out. No women allowed.
Makes a boring D&D party in my opinion, but that's cool.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. My D&D character is pretty awesome. She's a pirate cleric and she butchers everybody's name. So she
can come on Thursdays.
Fine. We'll have women's night on Wednesdays too. You guys we'll have our woman night.
That's what I tell my wife. Like,
we'll drink wine while we play D&D on Wednesdays. Right?
Yeah, that's perfect. See, you sound like a married woman who's good at compromise.
Like, we might just go get mani-pedis instead. But
there you go. Heck yeah. But yeah, I was coming down there, and there's a comic book shop. Rest in peace, Kingdom of Comics. It's gone now, and I would just go there before because it like started at 8:30. I had to leave earlier from Orlando because traffic is terrible in Florida.
Yes.
And I would get down and hang out at the bar there, and there's just these group of guys who did a Wednesday night meetup about like a comic book support group, almost like, hey, what are you working on? Okay, what are you working on? Great, you could do this or this or that. And I was like, holy crap, I'm actually doing a comic book. That's when I was just completely solo.
Right.
You know, I was working with Luis, so I had pages and things. So I think I was able to make a good impression with them because like I had put some work in. And so I started hanging out with them. And then, you know, Travis was like, oh, you got to come to this event and this event. And meanwhile, you know, all my pitches are getting rejected. Scout rejected it, right? And so like, you know, I was at the Collective, which is in Orlando, which is owned by the brother of the guy who does Coliseum of Comics. I think it was a brothers duo, and then they split ways, and now he owns the Collective while his brother still owns a Coliseum of Comics or something. And he had this event, and then Richard Rivera was there, and he was head of Scoot, while I think David Burns was still the lead guy on Scout or whatever. So he really liked the book, wanted to work with me, and that was it. And they were able to start the process from there, which was like 2.5 years ago now. So certainly it has taken its time for sure.
I mean, it's a process, and and people don't realize that. I was just talking with Marco about this, and Marco has other connections and other people that he works with that are published with Image, and he's like, even we're in Infinity again. Even after they accept you, it's a whole year before your book is out.
Yeah. And for me, it was even longer because there was a lot of redoing. Like we had, you know, 27 pages, but they were made for a not all ages group, right? They were made for a YA new age group. And so there was things we had to redo, you know, and thanks to Luis and Mateus, you know, putting in their time and effort and not charging me a dime extra for being able to just redo that stuff. So
that's wonderful. And I mean, that just shows that their faith in the project.
Yeah, their faith, and you know, it definitely helps that I'm like, hey, we got this. Here's the paperwork, and we
just need a few changes, and then we're in.
Yeah. So they were stoked about that for sure.
Back to the pitch because I'm taking notes.
Should I share again?
First page, second page, sure. Because you said 6 pages total, but
at least, yeah.
At least,
yeah.
So what if they ask for like a 1-pager?
Do they ever?
I guess. Infinity and beyond. All right.
Yeah.
So page 2 synopsis.
Yeah. Okay. Your short synopsis, because you will need to probably, if they do go like, hey, we're interested, send us our full synopsis. So that's when you go big time. That's when you
recommendations for a full synopsis. Do you do a beginning, middle, end and just give them more information, or like do you break it down by issue?
For sure. You give them a breakdown, or at least how I did it, breakdown of, again, my act. So that was a good way to have it. That's why the 3-act structure definitely helps you out a lot, as far as, you know, being able to write things that, you know, can sum it up easily. So let's see.
And when you're writing those synopses, are you just giving them facts, or are you trying to make it flowery and beautiful and enticing? And
no, you do not want them to be. You want it to be as straightforward as possible.
You just want to be able to read it and understand, right? Because it's their. I think at this point, what we're trying to do is just make sure that they have the time and the patience, because I'm sure when they're reading pitches, it's just like, nope, next, I'm bored. I took too long to get to the point, you know what I mean? So you might have something and maybe the pitch isn't there, and that's not what grabbing their attention. All right.
Yeah. So this is 7 pages long.
Wow.
Right. And I don't know how many words that is. So almost 4,000.
Okay.
So just going, you know, beat by beat, you know, I have act 3, act 2, act 1, prologue, right? And just making sure I'm introducing my characters and that the story flows linearly, right?
Okay.
So, you know, point A to point B to point C, all the way to Z, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. it's a tough process for sure.
Well, and I mean, it's something that they don't teach because generally, I mean, I'm in that category. I'm like, my pitch is on Word. Right?
We've all been there.
And every time I send it, I'm refining it and I'm trying to make it better. I'm trying to make it enticing. I'm trying to make. So when I saw your cover letter, I was like, oh, I have totally missed the mark. Right?
Okay, really?
So
okay.
They don't teach this. They're like pitch, but then you're like, okay, how do I do that? What can I put on the page? What?
Yeah.
Because the information can be there, but if it's not, there's a big gap between where you are and where I am in my pitching. So that's where I'm trying, like, okay, let's figure this out so I can work on this, refine it, and then try again.
Yeah. Well, remember, I was educated in this, which I didn't need to be, right? Like, I didn't pay for my education. I was lucky enough to get scholarships and fellowships and things like that helped. That, like, I had certain demographics that I fit in, like first time in college student, low income student, things of that nature that were definitely able to help me out go through that college. But all these things you can learn on your own. You just have to make sure that you're doing your diligent research and definitely, like, getting examples of your favorite books are the best way to do that. So, like,
interesting.
You can find, pitches and cover letters and synopses of, some of your favorite books probably out there somewhere. Right. So,
never thought of that.
Yeah, definitely the best way if you're trying to publish something is going to the bookstore, going to the library, getting online, seeing where your book fits in, which usually it fits into your inspiration. So you should have a good idea of like, what your book is, who your audience is, and just seeing and peeling back the layers of how that book got there, which you are able to do probably pretty easily within this day and age, right? So you don't have to write anybody a letter and send it through the mail. You can usually just do your sleuthing. Yeah. No.
So what are the rest of the pages that you send? So page 1, page 2.
Yeah. Then you just get into your sequentials. How many you want? If you can do as many pages, that's the best, right? They want to see that, your artist can tell a story in a sequential manner, and that it's professional, that your lettering looks good. If you can show as many pages as you can, do so. If you just have 6, because that's typically the minimum, fine. But you're probably going to be, you're just hitting the minimum, right?
Gotcha.
So whatever that, so you can see, like, there's a gun in this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not there anymore, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then all the way down, and then just your cover arts, some pinup art that I attached just to be like, hey, this is, something we're doing, right? This is one of my favorite ones, but that won't be in the book.
Nope, that one won't make it in.
No.
I think your editor is going to look at that and be like, God,
no. Yeah, he's like, that's a little grotesque. I'm like, yeah, it is definitely a difference of philosophy. Like, I don't think this is wrong for kids at all. I don't think, see, from a parent, you're like, I don't know. You could definitely see it.
Yeah,
it's like calculated rape.
Nightmares.
Yeah, which is, to me, good.
You say that until you're the one getting up with them at 3 a.m. and they won't go back to bed.
I agree. Parenting is tough, but it's so what? I'm the writer. You deal with it.
It's really
it'll make them a better person,
because they have kid stuff where it's like Last Kids on Earth, where it's like all zombies.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Where it's like it's pretty grotesque, and sometimes that doesn't give them nightmares, but like a spider.
Yeah.
Spider, and like my kid's up for 3 nights in a row. Or she saw a scary dolly, and it wasn't even like it wasn't Annabelle. It was like in the background of some random cartoon, they had a doll, and she's having nightmares about it.
Yeah, so you can't predict these things. No. So that's kind of the thing I try to tell people for Right for Kids. I mean, I think Neil Gaiman said it too. Like, you definitely want to scare children. Like, it's okay to scare kids because that, the real world's scary. And if we can scare them in a safe environment, in their bed with their mom and dad to, lean on, like, that's a good learning experience. And, it definitely in stories, there's a lot of scary things. I mean, if we look at some of our, canon literature and our stories that brought us up, they're pretty freaking scary, right?
Messed up, right? The real versions of them.
Oh, even
right?
that, yeah, those are crazy. Yeah, I'm working on a script that I don't know if I'll get finished for Travis Gibbs' next iteration of Cthulhu Invades, which
Yeah.
was my first publication, and it's the Grimm stories. So trying to reinterpret that, and I'm a big fan of the Grimm brothers and stuff. I've edited some of those stories for different publications in the actually it was a Utah publication. They were just like taking the stories and putting them out there. So I recently got to read them again, and yeah, they're pretty horrific.
They're horrific. Eating
Yeah.
children.
Yeah, the sisters in Cinderella cutting off their toes
cutting
to
off their toes.
shove it into the slipper. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're all, none of them are good.
Which just goes to show like how big those sisters' feet were that they cut off their toes and they still couldn't fit it in there.
That's not where I was going to go with that, but yeah.
Big
isn't bad. It shows growth once they overcome fear.
That's right.
For those of you that don't know, I'm also a martial artist. And
cool.
One of the things that we talk about in training is fear inoculation.
Yeah. Definitely.
Or stress inoculation.
Yeah.
Because if you can't do it when you train, you can't do it in real life.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said about what you just said, scaring the kids and that they can learn to overcome their fears or they grow out of it. Kind of inoculate them to the world, which is a terrible place. When you look at it sometimes. So it's interesting. I never thought about that with the kids. I always have thought about that as an adult. Like, and people, it's weird to think this way, and I have come to grasp with the way that I think. But when I go into a room, I'm looking for exits.
Right.
And I'm looking to see where we're most vulnerable or how would I act in a situation if there was a takeover or a active shooter. And that's just the way that my brain works after years and years and years of trying to think that way. You know what I mean? And it's not normal. And I don't tell people this because it freaks people out.
Yeah, sure.
I've had people tell me like you're fear mongering, but it's like, no, I'm just trying to think about the situation for myself. So I don't know if there's something that, like, again, for kids where it's like, okay, in this, they have to think on their feet. They're without their mom, Hansel and Gretel. They don't have their parents.
Yeah.
They're in a
their parents don't want them.
Right. Even worse. But it's like they have no parents and they have to make decisions on their own. And there's stranger danger and someone's trying to get them, but they outsmarted the antagonist. So
in some of the stories, for sure. In other stories, they just get dead.
Stranger danger, people.
Yeah, for sure. What are you in, BJJ or kickboxing or?
I practice Kali Illustrissimo, which is
I don't know what that is. Yeah.
Are you familiar with like Kali and Arnis and?
Nope.
Okay, it's a Filipino weapons-based martial art.
Okay.
So a lot of sticks and knives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's interesting. It's like combat geometry, learning where to put yourself so that way you have an advantage.
Yeah.
Because again, as a female especially, I'm going to be shorter. I'm going to have less of a reach. I'm definitely not going to be able to out muscle anybody. Yeah. So the way that I fight has to be smart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it changes depending on situation and what I'm carrying and who's with me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just constantly thinking. It's like a
very cool
playing in my head all the time. But it's just interesting sometimes how the correlation is there.
Yeah. So. Certainly. And I'm beginning into boxing, really loving it. So
nice.
It's very fun. Yeah. I'm too much of a wuss to go up to this boxing gym close to me. I don't know. I'm 34, so like I'm not young and spry. So like getting in there, I'm kind of like nervous to be like, what kind of mentality is at the gym, right? So if it's like a heavy sparring mentality, I'm not down for that, right? So it's just like, I'm not sure because I don't want to be the guy who's like, I've got a good, hook, right? So let's put you into the ring with this 19-year-old who needs to work on his hook protection while he beats the hell out of your face, right? So like that's not really my jam.
No, I think it just, you have to find a school that meshes with you. It has to have a philosophy that works for you.
I just need light sparring.
I mean, sparring is important.
Yeah, for sure.
Important. But you have to be in the right environment to actually learn from the sparring, because
Right.
someone's punching you in the face repeatedly and they haven't taught you how to block it.
Well, if they're going 100%, right? Like, I'm fine with getting hit in the face when we're like, okay, we're going to go 30% sparring, right? 50% even. But if, like, they want to throw haymakers in sparring match, I'm like, okay, dude, you need to go chill. Like, I'm not trying to do that with you.
No, and my philosophy about sparring is like, first you want to focus on the technique.
Yeah,
right.
that's
that
what
you're
it's
trying
for.
to focus on for the day.
That's what
and
it's
then
for. Yeah.
you do like a slow sparring where you get to act it out, right? And then it's like you said, like 30% or 50% sparring, and you spar until the point where your brain can't do it anymore, and then you stop, and then you go back and you work on form again.
Yeah,
because that's what's going to drill it into your muscle memory. But you just getting punched in the face and you can't you can't pull the technique out without thinking, then you don't have it yet, and you have to work on drilling.
Yeah, because even if you're gonna beat the guy or woman there, and if your technique's bad, like, that's not a win, right? For sparring, Yeah.
But sparring is super important. I always recommend that people get in the ring and they test themselves and see what they're going to do, because again, if you can't do it while you're sparring, you can't do it in real life.
Yeah,
and that means that you have to work on your form and et cetera, et cetera. So
for sure.
But it's interesting to me at this point in my martial arts journey, where it's like I can see someone's standoff, like their stance. And I understand what type of fighter they are.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then how to combat that type of fighting. So like a boxer or like a BJJ guy who's kind of crouched, and it's like, okay, do I need to keep my space from this person? And how do I use my footwork to do that? Because I'm not going to outbox you on anything. So.
My footwork's god awful. Yeah.
Oh, well, me too. So my job is to keep my ass out of range. That's my job.
That's right.
So I want to talk some more about the website too.
Yeah.
So Scout has this wonderful website, and there's tons of stuff to find here.
For sure.
They have a Scout box.
Oh yeah, subscription.
Ooh.
Yeah. No.
12 new comics every month. Every month?
Yeah. $33.99.
And they have so many titles, which is amazing.
Yes.
I was just scrolling through this, I'm like, wow.
Oh yeah, Electric Black. So that's or is that?
Oh, this one here, Electric Black. I see it.
Or maybe that's a book.
Are these all?
Those might be books. Sorry.
Are they? I don't know. It doesn't let me.
Yeah.
Oh, that one let me click on it. Go back.
Okay, those are books. Yeah. Some of them. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Look at this cover.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh no, that was under Black Caravan. Yeah. So if you go back to it, Black Caravan, that's their darker imprint, I guess. They're darker, edgier. So Black Caravan up at the top.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
there.
Another imprint, I suppose.
I understand. Interesting.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Oh yeah. lot more than Benigno.
I was like, they got our own block. That's one.
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm with you. Where it's like I have all the scripts. I'm still working on getting the floppies out, so then we can build our trade paperbacks. But you still have quite a bit here.
Well, those are variants. Yeah, those are all variants of the same.
Right, but there's still lots of options. So we can get a digital. We have the issue number 1, and of course there's a VHS variant cover. Cool.
It's like the Disney shell box.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Like, takes you back, right?
I really wanted the digital to be free, but I don't know if they could do that. But I'm a big proponent of like having that digital copy for free. But
yeah. I don't know if that's different because Scoot, like me as an independent, mine's up on like Global Comics and on Webtoons.
Yeah.
So people can read that for free there if they really wanted to. If they want to pay me $5, they can pay for it and download it from my website.
Yeah.
But it's out there and it's free. So it's like, but I get you where it's like people can kind of get that sample for free and then hopefully come back because they like what they see.
Yeah.
You have a coloring book?
Yeah. Well, it's not a coloring book. It's a coloring book.
Oh, it's a coloring book cover. So it's issue 1.
Yeah.
And people can color it themselves.
Yeah, but it's it does have the glossy cover, so you probably need a specific kind of marker to have that. So I mean, you could technically like take it to conventions and things, and like if you have a colorist you like, give them it and
Probably those.
be able to
What
do
are
that.
they? The alcohol ink markers. I used to have a
Oh
set
yeah,
of those.
yeah.
I sucked at it though. So
Yeah.
ooh, look at this cover, everybody.
Oh yeah,
Web store.
that's Noel's cover. Noel SB. He's the one I'm working with on a new title called Borzo and the Fluffy Sword. And
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How dare he
What?
put the whole family on the cover like that?
I love it.
Like, how dare you? How dare you? Once you're reading, you're like, that sucks, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's only 2 left after that. Yeah.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
comment. I'm not saying anything. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you already told people, so if they were paying attention, they would know what's going on. But still.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Yeah. So all of these are here for purchase. So this would be purchased through Scoot, and then they would ship directly to you. They ship continental USA. Do they ship Canada?
I believe so, but there is definitely other resources if you do live, out of the U.S. That you can find online for sure that ship internationally. I was trying to find that one that was strictly a UK one.
Gotcha. I am posting the link in the chat for everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Forbidden Planet is one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, I have so many more questions about the story.
Good. Shoot.
Why a philosopher's ghost?
So it is based off the character, the real life character of Diogenes. He was a Greek philosopher. He's very much the beginning of what is called ancient cynicism, not cynicism as we would think of it today.
Right.
But ancient cynicism. So he's got some crazy stories associated with him from history, right? In quotes. Okay. It's almost history and myth. So like one of my favorite is he's speaking with Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great comes up to Diogenes, who's laying on a hill, right? He's relaxing. He's got the sun on him. And Alexander the Great has heard of Diogenes and, his philosophy on life and things like that. And he comes up to Diogenes and he goes, Diogenes, as Alexander the Great, I can give you all these things, just ask it of me. And Diogenes goes, could you get out of my sun, man? Yeah.
Who are you? And I don't care. Talk to my son like, kid, get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Get out of here, kid.
So I've always been enraptured with Diogenes. I definitely like to take, my influences and just, try to fit them in the story. And so he's just what kind of a trickster sort of spirit that exists within Benigno. And again, he's like friend or foe. He's got this split personality. So if you see that lantern there, Diogenes there is Dio. Within the lantern is Diogenes' spirit held, like the actual Diogenes. And so there's this whole thing going on with them where Dio exists as like a dark mirror to Diogenes' sort of psyche. And so they have their own sort of like, motivations and what they want to do and how they want to protect or hinder Benigno and things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is it just took on a whole nother level with that. I mean, when I ask these questions, I'm like, there's someone up with this.
Yeah.
It's so specific to be like, it's not just a demon or like a djinn or something that the grandma calls. It's very specific. So there has to be a decision behind that.
Yeah.
And she has this almost like Santeria idol, yes?
Yes, yeah, she does practice Santeria. Yeah.
She does.
Yeah. And that's how she summons Dio/Diogenes is through that statue that she possesses. Yeah.
And I feel like out of the family that she and Benigno are very much alike.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. And
Definitely.
yeah, it has a lot to do with my grandma's conversation, my grandma Bonnie.
Really?
Yeah. So like, she was, having me drink black coffee when I was a kid and stuff like,
With hair on your chest.
You smoke yet, Davy? Things like that. So like, and we were very similar in the same way. She was very artistic, but she never really got the means to express it. So yeah, I definitely have a love for grandmas in not a weird way.
Right. No, you're channeling your relationship with your grandma into this story.
Sure.
Because I think the grandma just sees herself, or so much of herself.
Yeah. Which scares her. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What's with him and the firecrackers?
he's just a rambunctious kid, man. He's lashing out a little bit, He's a good kid, but he also has his proclivities. Yeah. Oh, he's a good kid.
Throwing firecrackers at me, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna classify him as chaotic good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a little chaotic.
So also in the story, this train, and we've talked about this train a few times.
Yeah.
How much influence did you have into the design of this train image?
So it was different before, but I was definitely like, it's the beast, and we're going kind of this sort of magical realist sort of, because the character of Borges in the book is my favorite writer, Borges, Luis Borges from Argentina, and he is somebody who. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Where was I going? My train of thought.
Your train about the train.
Yeah. Magical realism.
Experience, like seeing stuff like that, or I'm just curious.
No, I'm sorry. It's to do with magical realism. Yeah, it's to do with magical realism, which is kind of a blend of fantasy and realism, obviously. And so I wanted it a little bit not train-ish, but like I wanted it to have elements of magical realism, right?
It's terrifying.
Right. The teeth are amazing. That was definitely my idea.
Was it? Okay. I was this thing looks terrifying. And I wanted to know how much of that was in your description, how much of it was the artist being like, let's make this just crazy.
It's definitely always collaborative, right? But I definitely needed those teeth.
Devil's Hair is just like one after the other, and then I can't put them all up. It's just cracking me up. Also, thank you for this. The reason why I'm in the Western genre is because my dad. So if he's from that age, then he probably would like it. But it's much more than just Western. It's Western and zombies and supernatural and everything.
Perfect. I have a 6-page comic book set in Texas that is not it's a pitch that hasn't gone anywhere, and I've kind of put it on the back burner. It's called Tigers in Texas, and it follows
Tigers.
Tigers in Texas. Yeah,
because there's actually more tigers in Texas than anywhere else in the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
And with people, I don't get it.
Good for them though.
You could buy an ostrich.
Yeah.
There's ostrich farms. You can buy ostrich meat. And this is just such a weird story. My kid, the 6-year-old, loves eating fried eggs.
Yeah.
And we were watching, I don't know, she's weird. And we were watching a YouTuber that was making an ostrich egg. And she demanded that I buy and cook her an ostrich egg. And I was like, I don't even think that's possible. Where would you find? There's no ostriches. It's Texas.
Yeah.
Lo and behold.
Yeah. It's right down the road.
Seriously. But they won't let you buy any eggs. They'll let you buy the meat, but not the eggs. So it was just like a weird rabbit hole I fell into about ostriches. But so,
awesome.
Totally random story. But yes, it's like, why are there so many tigers here in Texas? Do you know?
Just rich people who want something
tigers.
Cool to brag about. Yeah, I don't know. Good for them, I guess. I don't know.
What's that show that everybody Tiger
King? Yeah,
I never watched it.
It's good. I think a lot of it is fudged. Like the whole there's this whole thing with some woman Carol or something, which apparently that was all faked.
I don't know. I've seen all the memes about Carol, but I don't really understand because I never watched it. Right.
Right.
But is that here in Texas?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that would explain. part of it.
I think that guy's still in jail. Pretty sure he was wild.
I saw some meme. It was like he was marrying a man, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I've completely lost what is going on with this thing. So maybe at some point I'll watch that.
Yeah, it's an interesting show for sure. Yeah.
All right, so that's an interesting 6-page script that you have going out somewhere.
Yeah, I have 6 pages of it done too. So for the pitch, so the minimum I hit with that, it's kind of a prologue. So I was pitching it out. No bites on it, which kind of thank God. I don't too much project management. That is not my strong suit. So I'm thankful to just have a one right now, because I don't think
with you, man. I don't know how some people. And I do like the crowdfunding and stuff, and like Max, who was on here earlier, he's part of Atrocity Press, and they have like 6 titles that they rotate through
These guys are awesome. Yeah.
I don't know how they do it. Where they're just like, oh yeah, we're doing this next, and then we're doing issue 2 of this next, and then 2 months later we're running this, and I'm like, how?
Good for them. That's not me.
No.
Yeah.
No. I was like, maybe if I was just doing that and not writing, but they do the writing too. I don't know.
For sure. Yeah. I like the Dave Smith sort of philosophy. The guy who wrote Bone. Try to capture. Yeah.
That's me too. I'm like, because people are like, oh, when's your next campaign? I'm like, I don't know. I gotta finish this first. I'm like, I'm on this. Right. Once this is done, then we'll do
I can think elsewhere. Yeah, for sure.
Right. I'm like, too many moving parts on this, and it's like I can't. Well, I don't want to promise something and then we miss a deadline, or the printer disappears, or I had a colorist drop out of mid project before it happens, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
not to mention kids, family, work, everything else. Yeah.
One of my besties, Carissa Grant, has her next 3 years planned out, and I'm like, girl, how are you? Well, she definitely has this whole 2024 is planned out. She's because she just did her first hardcover, so she has issues 1 through 7, and she did this in 12 months, mind you.
Jesus,
she's a beast.
Yeah, for real.
So she did issues 1 through 7, all on Kickstarter, and then did the hardcover, which I think is finishing up this week, I want to say. Nice. But they're funded, and she already has the books. They're already done.
Yeah, nice.
And then she's like, oh, so by the end of next year, we'll be done with book 2. And I was like, I'm on 4.
Yeah. I keep telling my wife she's got to help me out with this PM stuff. And she's like, that's all you, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, darn it. I tried to hire you, man. I tried to bring you into my world. No, you don't want to? Okay. It's not for everybody. So when is the next thing? So wait, first of all, when did this go live? When did this?
In August of this year.
It just launched this summer.
Yeah.
How long until the book is available?
So we're on page 59 now. So we'll get there by the end of probably February, I imagine. And then be able to send it off and get edits. So I would imagine maybe at the earliest another August release, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, there's something to be said about that. People are always like, gotta do the next, gotta do the next, gotta do the next. And it's like, well, you gotta give it time to breathe too. Let people find this book and consume it and talk about it and build up the buzz and build up, you know what I mean? To me, there's something to that as well, where it's like, well, we want them to be ready for the next one and wanting it. Instead of just be like, put out the next one in 3 weeks, and then people are like, I don't even finish the first one. Like, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
That's completely right. Yeah.
But how many pages will the first book be?
It's right now it stands at 91. So I'm sure it won't go too much more, too much less than that. Yeah.
Are you going to do like the classic graphic novel where it's like you have the book, but then there's like additional content, bonus material, script pages?
We haven't talked about it, but we'll see what Scoot wants to do. I know they're a fairly busy company at the moment, and it's not a large team, and they all have their own books as well. So it's always difficult to understand what the actual product is going to look like this far out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what is it like working with Scoot? Do you have to check in like once a week? Do you have a primary contact that you deal with? Like,
I have an editor that I deal with mostly. I used to deal with the editor of Scoot a lot more, who I think he still has that title, but now he's also wrapped in Scout as well. So like his time's more divided over there. So I now talk to my direct editor, is mostly my point of contact if I need anything or have any questions or want to start sending him pages, right, to review and then get back to me on.
how do they decide a deadline? Do they work with you? Do you guys talk with it together, or do they just like, we need this done by blah?
No, there's none of that. There is just like, okay, you have this out, what you need to do, send us the pages. I can send him the pages whenever, and start to work on like these next pages up to 57, right? But I'm just going to wait till 91, send him the 91, and then he'll get his edits back to me. So it's pretty free flowing,
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they also help with any kind of advertising or helping you book cons or make suggestions in that aspect?
I haven't had much of that. I mean, they certainly have their Instagram, their Facebook, the editor will shout it out, things like that. So, it is creator owned, right? This isn't, Marvel, DC, this isn't where they have the IP completely within their control. Yeah.
Oh, hello, Doc.
Hey.
Good afternoon. I think it's afternoon where you are. We're not quite there. We're close.
Yeah. I'm past afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
So I know you said Tigers in Texas, but you have other scripts. You mentioned Cthulhu as well.
Yeah. Cthulhu Invades.
Yes.
That was my first publication. Cthulhu Invades is under Orange Cone Publishing, which is Travis Gibbs' publication.
Gotcha.
And it's basically about Cthulhu from H.P. Lovecraft invading different storybook worlds. And my first publication was in the one which is the second book. The first one was invading Oz, then he invaded Wonderland, and I had the character of the Red Queen. So it's a giant. These are giant anthologies. And then the next one coming out soon that already had a Kickstarter was Neverland. I have a story in there following Gentleman Starkey, and then on this other one, which I haven't got in yet, and I still haven't finished up what I want to do with it. And it's like due in a couple days.
Right. We're like, I'm going to keep going on that one, right? Don't come after me. I'm still working on it.
We'll see if it happens. Right. There's nobody hounding me or anything to get it in. They have tons of, creators who are interested, and it's a good opportunity for everybody who can get into it. So cool. Yeah. And then one of my favorite ones was And Out Comes the Comics with Apollo City Comics. That was a punk rock comic book. And Out Comes the Comics. You can look it up. It's pretty sweet. It's a punk rock comic book anthology. I was in there with my story Belly Rider, who is just this beach punk rock bum who has a pig named Belly that he rides like a hog. Which is a complete Lost in Translation has been kind of a theme of this podcast. But so I was working with Noel, who I'm working on Borzo and the Fluffy Sword, which we don't have any announcements there, but that one's going to come out hopefully, but we'll see. But we were working on this comic, and I wrote in the script, rides a giant hog. In America, we know what that means.
Motorcycle.
It's a big motorcycle. Yeah. I get the character designs back, and he's on this giant pig. I'm like, holy shit, that's amazing.
You're like, that's totally not what I meant, but now we're teaching this.
Oh, it's what I meant. It's what I meant.
It is now.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, great, just give it handlebars. So yeah, it's a very fun story. He fights Dr. Buzzkill on No Man's Beach. Dr. Buzzkill is this crazy scientist who's trying to take over No Man's Beach to turn it into condominiums and stuff. And Belly's a punk rocker, and he ain't having none of that shit. So he's got to throw him off the beach.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
By the way, Cthulhu, what a jerk.
Yeah.
I didn't want to
Yeah.
interrupt you while you were telling the story, but I was like, what a
Yeah.
jerk, man. He just shows up in other places. He's like, rah.
Yeah, I mean,
You for no reason.
I wouldn't consider Cthulhu a jerk. I would consider him just a being that is, living the way that he is created, right? Like
he's living his best life.
Yeah, he's a horror, and he's doing horror things. So, I can't blame him. He does bad things in my perception, but in his, he's just taken over minds to create, the Cthulhu cult. Yeah, good for him.
I had read something once where it was like comparing humans to ants.
Okay.
That was like Cthulhu to humans.
Oh,
where it
sure.
was like if an ant was like, hey, can you what was the situation? I forget the exact thing, but it was like trying to make someone, a different ant, fall in love with him.
Oh.
So the human killed all the other ants.
Yeah.
So there was just the two of them left. So now it was like,
good play.
Are better. So
Fair
it's
play,
like
brother.
that would
Yeah.
kind of be like lost in translate, but that would be like a Cthulhu thing to do, where it's like, make me rich and powerful. Fine, we just kill everybody else. And now we got all the money.
That's actually a great story. That would be very cool. Actually,
it was interesting with the way.
And then they would hate each other.
Yeah.
Right, because he wishes for this wish. It has those bedazzled sort of consequences where you didn't expect. Right. Shout out to the old movie Bedazzled, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
But, Brendan Fraser is best.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then he would end up hating the ant, and she would obviously hate him.
Right.
When she discovers what happens. Yeah.
He killed all of her friends' family and everybody else.
Yeah. This should have been a Dostoevsky story for sure. Yeah.
Hold on, someone wrote it. It wasn't me. What's this? Okay, Devil's Error. As Bob Ross would say, we don't make mistakes, only accidents.
That's right. We have the Bob Ross Museum very close in Florida. He's a Florida guy.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I wrote a Bob Ross Easter egg into someone else's comic.
Perfect.
They took it out. I was like,
what the hell?
Bob Ross background. It would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Like slasher. Terrible. Like everybody dies. Everybody's like scared and terrified, and then there's Bob Ross on the TV.
I think Bob Ross being the slasher makes more sense. He's just like, there's no accidents. It's just
dab.
No mistakes, just happy accidents.
Red trees.
He's painting with their blood.
Painting with the blood.
Yeah. Take a little bit of the iris and put it there.
You know how they have like I can't even. My brain just totally derailed.
Yeah.
Back to the train. No, it's like Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter, and then I think there's like a Harriet Tubman, Monster Hunter, or something like that. It was like Bob Ross /
Yeah. But he's not the good guy. That's the point.
But he's not the good guy.
He's not the good guy.
He pretends to be.
Bob Ross, a serial killer.
People would definitely read this. Serial killers are hot right now.
I mean, when are they not? Right, since Jack the Ripper, they've been on the top.
This is true.
Yeah.
People wonder why people can be so evil.
Yeah,
we are enamored with the idea of what makes them different.
That was cool with Dexter, right? It took like that NCIS sort of thing, but then a little bit of newness with following the serial killer doing his thing, but it's also like, he's good, right? Yeah.
Dexter was great until it ended, and then it wasn't.
After the fourth, I don't consider anything after season 4 Dexter, right? It's like,
I mean, what was John Lithgow's character? I think was the penultimate bad guy in
season 4.
Was it season? I can't remember the seasons, but it was like after that, it was just like.
Oh yeah, they totally lost the plot. They had no idea. It's like it escaped from everything that it set up, right? Like it didn't. It always seemed like it was going somewhere, but then they started chasing their tails, and characters didn't start acting like each other. Then you had basically incest, but not incest, and you're like, what's going on? This is so dumb. Yeah.
And I agree with you. And I think this is a lesson to be learned about good writing, is that the end, to me, I'm just gonna do my hot take. This is me.
Sure.
I'm not saying anybody else can, they can do whatever.
Right.
But for me, I have to know the end. I know there's an ending and we stick to it. I don't want an ongoing series because every single issue then is taking us closer to that end goal. And when we get there, that's when we have the sorry, someone's sending me pages. When we get there, then it's like that's the fan payoff and like everything makes sense, and then people have that resolution. So it's like here's the ones I always say, it's the difference between Breaking Bad ending and Lost. And I would also say Dexter. Like you feel like the rug just gets pulled out from underneath you when you're watching these series. We're like, that ending made no sense. Why are we watching that? Why did they kill her? That made zero sense. You know what I mean? And then you're just angry about it. But I don't know if they do that on purpose. So they're like, well, we're going to take a hiatus and we'll bring back the show.
Yeah, I think it's just laziness. Yeah, it's just like they get different writers, they get different showrunners. I mean, I don't care if a show is ongoing as long as the characters, have consequences, are true to their characterization that we have grown to love and care about. That's fine. Like you can tell an ongoing story that has no real end in sight that they know of. They might get there, but they might not. Just like have the characters be the characters that you set up, right? Because Dexter starts breaking all his rules. He's like shooting guns out of the car, right? Yeah. He's like doing all these non-Dexter things, which makes the reader just break because they're not going, or viewer, just break out of their conviction that the story is actually something cool. Hey, Quentin.
Hello, Quentin. How are you today, sir?
Hello.
I mean, I agree and I disagree. I really think there needs to be an ending for there to be good character development. Like the difference between reading, I don't know, because like Saga is still ongoing. But let's say like character development in DC Comics versus character development in anything that's on Image, where it's like creator owned, like Invincible. Invincible had consistent, it was a long ass series, right? Long. But there was always, like you said, consistent growth. The characters acted the way they were supposed to, and they grew and they changed. But it always made sense, as opposed to these legacy characters where it's like, all right, we're just going to revamp and we're going to go back in time, or we're going to multiverse it and we're going to change everything because we're bringing in a new writer and they're not going to read 75 years of canon and make it go. So to me, it's kind of like that's the cop out where it's like, okay, this character's been around, it's ongoing, and we don't really have character growth anymore. We just change things out and we start over.
Yeah, it's laziness. It's lazy. I mean, if you want to do the research as a new writer on a character, like, it's pretty easy not to do that research compared to doing it. So if you don't need to do it, and you still get paid the same amount, and you have no incentive to do it otherwise, then just start over. I mean, it can be difference of opinion. Like Dickens is one of my favorite writers, and Cervantes as well. I'm a big canon fan, so like Don Quixote is one of my favorite books ever, and that's one I would always start my kids on when I was tutoring reading. And it's just they wrote those in serials, right? And the way that they worked was, and they had no ending in sight. They were basically putting out chapters that were 3-4 pages long every week, and they were just keeping it consistent with the characters. So I think as long as you're consistent, like you said, with growth and characterization, like you'll get to an ending, because either the writer will be fed up with wanting to write it, or the readers are fed up with it, right? So you just have to wrap it up. And as long as you've been continually growing, continually putting consequences on it, you can always get to, I think, a satisfying ending where you can just be like, okay,
hopefully
Don Quixote's done journey, right?
Yeah, I think the difference is we're comparing books to like TV series.
Okay.
And when it's like Hollywood and studios that are like, you need to write more. Like, I know we said we were only going to produce until the end of this season, but we've just been renewed for 2 more seasons. And then into the next season, they're like, oh, money ran out. You need to wrap it up by the end of this season. And they're like,
for sure.
We've written 6 in and we're not thinking of an ending. And that's why they're like, well, kill the sister and drive off on a boat.
Yeah, for sure. That can happen.
Okay with that. But
no,
I think
nobody.
just how
Nobody
it goes
was.
sometimes with the dollars, you know, where they're just like, sorry, no, there's no money left. You need to end the series.
Yeah.
You just
Dexter's
jump.
is an interesting one to sort of dive into or dissect, right?
Dexter, Lost is the other one where I'm like,
Yeah.
where do we fall off? You
Yeah.
know, with Lost, like they kept us on the hook for so long with
Yeah.
everything there. It was so dynamic and such a big cast that we were able to explore all these different things. But then it was like, at what point did we stop caring? For me, is when they found the zoo. I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Done here. This makes no sense.
Yeah. They were throwing paint at the wall for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, when they're like, sorry, you gotta write. It was like A Quiet Place.
Which was that?
The one that John Krasinski wrote about the I don't know if there were aliens that came down, but
I never saw those. Yeah.
Really good. Was an excellent movie, but he had written it as a one and done.
Right.
And the studio came back and was like, you need to write another one. And he pushed back and he was like, no, that was never the intent. It was a one and done. And they were like, listen, either you write it or we're going to pay someone else to do it. We won't do it as well as you.
Yeah.
So he was like, well, I guess I'm writing another one, right?
If it was me, I would have wrote like something completely like a middle finger.
Trash?
Not trash.
No, how about this? Where he writes it where like the aliens show up at a movie studio and just kill all the executives.
Yeah. Where the aliens are the executives.
That's a twist right there.
Yeah.
Fucking aliens.
They're attracted to bad ideas. Like
yeah, but I mean, like, they even had like, even Devil's Air agrees. Like, Quiet Place 1 is great, 2 is garbage. But that's what happens when it's like there was no intention of writing a sequel.
Right.
And they just kind of were like, you need to write a sequel because people have money in their pocket and they'll come out to see it. Even if it's trash, they'll at least they'll come out for the second one. If it's trash, they might not come back for a third one, but we'll get their dollars.
Yeah.
You know?
And with TV, it's like project managers, you know, the showrunners, they change, writers get swapped out, and so it's like that's tough. And
it could even be written and filmed beautifully, and then they edit the out of it, and then it doesn't make sense because they left so much on the cutting room floor. Like that whole
Napoleon's like that right now. That new Napoleon with Ridley Scott. Like, I'm going to wait to see the director's cut because, like, you can't do Napoleon in 2.5 hours. And like what I've been hearing so far, it's like it doesn't really satisfy in theaters. So I'm probably just gonna wait.
Probably because they cut it for runtime,
of course,
and it's missing all of the heart behind it. And it's like so rough.
Yeah, but Ridley Scott is kind of hit or miss for me. So yeah.
What's a miss? What's a miss, Ridley Scott?
I thought, you know, Mars was okay, but it was kind of boring. Yeah.
Watch Mars.
Matt Damon.
Oh, that.
No, it was a bit of a.
Yeah, I did see that one, but what's it? It's not just called Mars, is it? What is it called?
I thought it was, or Mars Man. I don't know.
Mars Man. It's just called Matt Damon.
Matt Damon, not Mars Man.
Not Mars.
Oh yeah. Gucci, I thought, was really not great. Last Duel was sweet.
Did not see Gucci. Had no interest in seeing Gucci.
I totally understand that. Neither did I. Prometheus is awesome.
Right.
Gladiator, Hannibal, Black Hawk Down, all good. Blade Runner, nice.
Yeah.
Black Rain, I don't think I've ever seen.
Oh, isn't that
1989.
Isn't that the one about dragons, or am I thinking something else? Rain of Fire. That's what
Rain of Fire.
Black Rain.
Black Rain.
Ridley Scott. Anybody in the chat know that one? American film, neo-noir crime thriller.
Martian, not Mars. The Martian.
Oh, The Martian. That's it. I was like, I don't think it was called Mars, was it?
No.
You're like, for all I care, it's called Mars.
You can't mistake it with any of his other movies. Maybe Alien, but
Nope. Alien was great.
Yeah.
Alien was perfect.
Last Duel was so much fun. I thought that one was really cool.
Which one?
The Last Duel.
The Last Duel. Oh, is that the Matt Damon and
Adam Driver?
Adam Driver.
Mm-hmm.
The Last Duel?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking something else.
It's on Hulu right now. Go check it out.
Oh yeah, no, he's in it too. Yeah, yeah, and it's Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a messed up movie. It
I
was
love
messed
that.
up. Did you
Yeah.
like it?
I liked it, and especially I really liked it. It came out like the same time as The Green Knight came out, which I thought was a
Oh,
fascinating movie. Definitely not for everybody.
I wanted to see that one. Did not make it to the theater.
Yeah, yeah,
My husband is not as adventurous as I am when it comes to film.
yeah, yeah.
I like the weird cult classic things, and he does not.
My wife's the
So,
same way.
yeah, where I'm like,
Yeah.
this looks amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just like he can't appreciate it because it's too weird.
Yeah, she's like, "Can we watch 50 First Dates again?" I'm like,
No,
it's a good
we
movie, but yeah.
I'm like, there's not nearly enough stabbing that happens in that movie for me.
Perfect.
Because people are like, oh, The Notebook. I'm like, never seen
Yeah.
it. They're like, you've never seen The Notebook? I'm like, nope.
we rewatched that movie, and God, is it terrible.
The Notebook.
Yeah. God, is it bad. It's so, and then the whole like conversation, like it's bookended, right? Of like he's old now, talking to his wife that doesn't remember him or whatnot. I think that's how it goes, and then it's all couched in between. It's so long and drawn out, but
you could make up an ending to that, and I would be like, oh, I've never seen it.
Yeah.
You're like,
actually,
the part where they turn into cannibals. I'm like, oh, that's a different one. I've never seen that.
I actually spent like 2 hours with Nicholas Sparks at one point. I worked at a bookstore, and he came for a signing, and my job was to take books. It's like stand in front of him. He's sitting at a table. Take books, put it on page 3 so he could sign it. Close the book, put it in boxes. Then we're doing that. So I got to pick his brain for like 2 hours, but there was an insane blowout. Like right before he's supposed to be coming out, he gets on his phone and he just starts fucking cussing, like yelling top of his lungs, has to go outside. And he's like, I'm not giving that bitch anymore, blah, blah, blah. He's like going through a divorce at that moment, like talking to this lawyer. I'm like, oh, Nick, you're up.
There's people. There might be people right there.
Yeah, you're all the love guy, right? You're the love guy, remember?
He's like, not anymore. F this book. Got real angry after that.
There's like 1,000 housewives like rhyme like down the block, like no, wives are evil.
Buy this book, thank you. It just goes to show you never know.
Yeah, and talk about a formulaic writer. That guy was telling me, he's like, I got my formula, I write to it, I get a book out every 6 months, easy peasy. I'm like, all right, good for you, man.
Wow. I mean, like, I don't know. At that point, either you're so tapped into the creative pipeline, or you're just pulling stuff out of your behind. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man.
It's the difference between somebody who wants to write every day as a writer and sell books as a writer, compared to like, the writers that I really like, which is like Melville, right? Like just people who painstakingly worked over a project, right? And nobody really likes it for 50 years at least. Right.
Not appreciated in their time, kind of thing.
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
It's true art.
I'm a snob for sure. I do not think that, art is like an archipelago, right? Where it's like this equals this and they're all the same size or whatnot. I definitely see art as something that there's elevations to it, which is fine. And you can appreciate all the different elevations, right? So it's just kind of I'm a snob, I have to say. Yeah. Unfortunately. It's just the personality I was given.
Dude, and you are entitled to have your personality. No one can take that away from you.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
I do want to just go back to comics real quick.
Yes, please, because
I have an advertisement thing that I'm going to try out. Right, it's going to be a marketing thing that I'm doing. It's the first time I'm doing it, so I'm reaching out to Instagrammers, TikTokers, things like that, and doing a giveaway. Right, so I got some of these Gemini mailers that I was able to custom with them from this guy, David Lugin. We can talk more if you'd like to do it. He did these books. He made about like 35 or 40, I forget, like $100. And then I got the tape, Benigno tape, right?
I'm gonna need his information.
Sticker Mule. This is from Sticker Mule. So anybody, right? And you can definitely get that. So I'm going to be doing a giveaway. So I'm going to be sending a box with like, some comics in it, the floppies, 2 influencers for free. And then they're going to do a giveaway. They're going to be like, okay, the first, 4 people that, comment on, Dave's page, or go follow Dave, or, anything you want for the interaction at the time, go visit the Kickstarter, share the Kickstarter. Even I think I'm going to do like, you need to share something to your story about the book or something like that. And then I will send them a free copy, and we'll just see how it goes. But yeah,
cool.
that's
I'm interested to see how that goes. I love that he print. Is it printed on the Gemini mailer, or is it like?
Yeah, it is printed. It is on there. Yeah.
I'm going to need to know that.
He's a cool guy. He's cool. He's an artist himself. He worked on that book. And Out Comes the Comics, Apollo City Comics, lesser known comics. Have you heard of these guys? No. They are cool guys. Cool guys.
I would love to know them. Yeah. I'm always about building community and meeting new people and learning. Like, thank you so much for A, coming on the show today, and B, giving me a lesson of how I should improve my brain. I was like, I am light years behind where I need to be, apparently, and had no clue. So, and just letting us, pick your brain and sharing your story with us and all of that. You've been a super cool guest, and you were always welcome back on the show at any time.
Perfect, Laurie. Just hit me up. Maybe not too often. I had to tell my I had to tell my boss that I'll be away for 2 hours. She's like, for what? I'm like, dentist.
Yeah, right. Not important. Don't ask questions. Like, you don't need to know. By the way, follow this link. No, just kidding.
In Teams.
You like just drop your video into where I was at the dentist. On an unrelated note, this didn't happen at the same time.
That's fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. But yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Laurie.
Where can people follow you so that way?
I'm most active on Instagram, Dave_Scrives, SCRIVES. Definitely you can hit me up there. I'm on Facebook, of course, Davy Lee. So hit me up there, guys. Love to talk to you. Love to talk comics. Love to talk anything else.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And catch you all next week. I got another guest.
Woo.
I don't know who they are. But
okay.
I know who they are. It's just that I'm not gonna just
it was a surprise. All right. I will have that in the background while I'm editing children's books.
Perfect.
My day job.
Oh, hooray. At least it's still on the same kind of thing. It's not like you work in finance.
Sometimes, but then you're like drained. You're like, I don't want to look at words anymore.
Words, please. Send me pages. I just want to see art. Thank you. All right, everybody. We will catch you next week.
All right.
Bye.
See you, comic.
The Civil War was America's bloodiest conflict. Over 500,000 died to preserve national unity. When the war ended, Confederates like Harley Brogdon headed west, shooting games of the Army and gambling. When a card game turns deadly, Harley shoots in self-defense, killing the card sharp who threw down first. Wilfred Knorr, the card sharp's wealthy father, will stop at nothing to see Harley hang. Harley flees to Cobb's Gap, an old silver mining town at the foot of the Rockies. A remarkably peaceful town, especially after dark. But the sheriff harbors a dark secret, and no one dares go into the mines anymore. Cobb's Gap is full of secrets. People speak in hushed tones of something in the mines. Something worse than their cursed sheriff. Something even the Indians fear from the deepest pits of hell. Every secret will be exposed. Bronze Star. Order your copy at bronzestarcomic.com.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.